Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 89. Producer Megan is on the sticks. Cody Saftik is on the line. Coming off the heels of UFC Vegas 88. Pretty wild night of events. We were just bemoaning the Bulgarian decision before we went online here. We're not going to waste your time with all too much of it, but it seemed a little bit crazy. That round two, I feel like you're very, very generous at the best case scenario, Cody. Allegedly, very, very generous if you're going to give round two to Christian Rodriguez, who landed 8 strikes and got taken down 4 times.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's the thing. It's like you actually said it best. It's like MMA is one of those sports where you can be right and still be wrong. Like, you're on the right side. You thought this guy was going to do this, execute the game plan, does, draw worst case scenario, which I would have taken the draw. And now the judges got it different. And then this card, the dangerous beast, because you're going right back to the Apex, which has questionable 50-50 judging. And as Paul and I are about to break down, this is largely a 50-50 card. Like, there's so much talent here half of the time. Like Rose Namajunas, 2 fights back, worst fight you've ever seen against Carlos Esparza. Very next fight, hangs with Manel Fierro. She's a 50-50 fighter if she's on or not. Edmen Shahbazyan, he's a 50-50 fighter if he's on or not. This Payton Talbott Cameron Saaiman fight's going to be wild. Billy Q versus Youssef Zalal. Youssef Zalal is really good half of the time. Trey Ogden's usually really bad. Lately, he's been good. Is he going to be good this time, or is he going to go back to being bad? Ricardo Ramos, Miles John's almost always bad. Last time against Dana Argueta, really good. Then turns out he's on steroids. So is he going to be bad this time, or is he going to be good against? Greasy card to come back to, my friend. Very greasy card to come back to. But again, yeah, the odds are fairly even on a lot of these fights. So if we can hit a couple winners, tie them together, there'll be value there.
100%. It's going to be tough for you to hit a PRP there, bro. Not that it's not easy.
No doubt.
At the best of times, it's not easy to hit a PRP. But this card will be muy picante if you hit a PRP 13 fights, and the biggest favorite is Rose Namajunas, who's in the main event. She's a minus 210 favorite. Amanda Ribas can be had for plus 180. Who you got here, buddy?
Yeah, well, again, it comes down to Rose Namajunas and what level is she at. And so we all know that she's super technical, she's super skilled, and she's as well-rounded as you'd want a fighter to be. World-class kickboxing skills for the division. Her wrestling has come a long way. BJJ black belt, solid grappling chops. It's just mentally she's only on half of the time. That half of the time that she's on, she can do it all, Paul. She's standing with the best strikers the division has to offer. She's grappling, she's wrestling, she's taking down, she's holding down, she's winning rounds, she's winning fights against the best. And then there's that other half. And this other half is not just a recent thing. You can't call her old. She's 31. This is still physically the prime of her life. It's just she's been in the game so long. And the story with Pat Barry, it's well known, but beyond that, it's just the mental struggles that she's had over the course of that relationship, and then becoming a world champion. And now all of a sudden the media wants to talk to you, and there's interviews, and you're not allowed to bring your emotional support dog to the cage with you. And she has a shaky performance, and then a weight class change. And that's all the red flags that make it questionable. So again, you go back 2 fights against Carlos Esparza, 2 fights ago against Carlos Esparza. It's perhaps the worst fight that I've ever seen in my life. Nah, that's a lie. But it's top 5 worst fights I've ever seen in my life. And it's just her being gun shy, not pulling the trigger. She, in her mind, was winning the rounds. And Pat Barry's telling her that she's winning the rounds. So she sees absolutely no reason to put the foot on the gas. And again, why that's dangerous is we've got spotty judges at the Apex, and they're looking at damage. That's why they didn't give the second round to Bulgarian, because he landed a few shots, but the few shots that Rodriguez landed had more impact. That's why they gave it to him. Would I have? No. Would most people have? Probably not. But those judges did, because it's a small Apex with loud acoustic. The shots mean that little extra bit, and they're looking for damage. So if Rose comes out thug Rose, like she can, oh yeah, baby, all day. If she comes out flat and she's second doubting herself, it's problematic. Now, people just look at MMA results, and so she loses that fight to Carlos Esparza, and then we'll get to the Manel Fierro fight. But she actually took a grappling match versus Julian Robertson in between and got rear naked choked in less than a minute. Again, this is someone that has all the skills and talents in the world. But she's not like motivated and mentally focused on the task at hand. She's leaving some areas to be open to be exploited. Now you mentioned she's the biggest favorite on the card. I don't know if she'll end up being the biggest favorite on the card, but they're red flags that I don't really want to think about when I'm paying -210 for somebody. So again, do I think Rose Namajunas wins the fights? Probably, but it's going to be up to what version of her shows up. And with Amanda Ribas, it's no disrespect to her. Like, I think she can go out and, win rounds and make this a competitive fight, and it'll probably go the 5 rounds. The thing is that one, she hasn't really been 5 rounds. So we do know about Rose. Again, if she's on, she's capable of fighting 25 minutes at a fairly decent pace if she so chooses to. Ribas, meanwhile, her last fight, she looked good in the 3rd round. Prior to that, she's a bit of a front runner. If you look at most of her losses, say the first one against Marina Rodriguez, wins the 1st round, takes a bad right hand in the 2nd round, gets wobbled, gets rocked, referee comes in, stops the fight. Not going to say she quit on herself, but did get caught in that 2nd round. You look at the fight with Caitlin Chookagian, competitive, but again, the longer the fight goes, it feels like that's where she ends up giving it up. And the fight with Macy Barber, another fight where she won the 1st round. She did really good in the 1st round. 2nd round, Barber comes on strong. When Barber comes on strong, Ribas just can't really take it. These are both 2 girls that used to compete at 115 that are now campaigning at 125. Ribas seems to be a little small for 125. Rose really doesn't. And this is Rose's 2nd fight at 125. It's Ribas's 5th fight at 125. So Rose will fill out that frame. 2nd outing at a new weight class. You and I talk about that all the time. Much better. Again, still only 31 years old. Doesn't have to worry about that weight cut. And she's in a fight here with Amanda Ribas where she could be very competitive, if not winning the striking outright. But even if she's not, she has the bigger power. The longer the fight goes, she will hit Ribas with something. She will hurt her with something. She will capitalize. If she chooses to go the wrestling route, again, I think she's the better wrestler. She has the better jiu-jitsu. I understand why she's favored. I understand why the line got to where it is, or where it got set to where it was at. But the bottom line is with Rose, it's always going to be a red flag because she's capable of looking like a -500 favorite in there. She's also capable of just dogging it and handing rounds away. So I would like to say 2-fight winning streak. She got to realize that, got to put the foot on the gas. Pat Barry hopefully is in her ear, got to put the foot on the gas and go out and perform. There's no crowd there. There's no pressure. This is probably a better setting for her. Utilize it and go out and get the win. So I will take Rose, but again, there's always going to be some hesitancy there.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think you make some pretty good points all the way around. Amanda Ribas has been like kind of bouncing back and forth between 115 and 125. So yeah, she's never really like sticking around long enough to put out, like we always talk about it, you like putting on the extra muscle and filling out the frame for a weight class up. She's not really doing that. It's like, obviously last time out was at 115 against Luana Pinheiro. So yeah, I think this is a much better, Rose showed up against Manon Fiorot. We all picked Manon Fiorot, but I think Rose performed pretty admirably there. And her hand, like she broke her hand real bad. Like you saw the pictures, I'm sure, after the fact. And she fought through it. So credit where credit's due. She showed up to a very, very difficult fight against a very, very large 125-pound title challenger, Manon Fiorot, and did not look out of place. Let's just call a spade there. Like where the heavier strikes were getting landed by Manon Fiorot. That's why Fiorot edged that fight out. But credit where credit's due. Rose made a pretty decent debut at 125 pounds against somebody that not many girls in this division really want to fight. So I think taking on somebody who, frankly, as you kind of said, is 115 pounds, having that extra time to fill out her frame at 125, 115 pounder that really, she just takes 125 fights so that she can stay more active in Ribas there. So I got Rose as well. Of course, Rose could show up and we could have a Carla Esparza type of fight where she doesn't really do anything and she kind of throws the fight away. But I'll hope that, that she's learned her lesson from that absolutely flat performance and knows that she's got to turn it up to keep her spot and keep progression moving forward. Because like losing to Manon Fiorot really wasn't much of a setback. But like losing to Ribas, it's just like PFL may be calling, That's just the nature of the beast, Contender Series is coming, Cody, and we all know that. All right, moving on down, we got the heavyweights. Karl Williams taking on Justin Tafa. Karl Williams is a minus 190 favorite. Tafa can be had for plus 165. Your classic striker versus grappler matchup at heavyweight. Nobody's ever taken Justin Tafa down, but I mean, credit where credit's due. Justin Tafa's manager has done a great job getting this guy. I mean, it's not even that he's had like a crazy good record, but it's like Jorgen De Castro, Juan Adams, Carlos Felipe, Jared Vanderaa, Harry Hunsucker, Parker Porter, Austin Lane twice, obviously because of like the eye poke. And he was matched up against Marcos Rogerio de Lima, but pulled out of that one for reasons unknown. Probably because he was the first person who's going to try to actually take him down. Yeah, like this guy has had pretty much every single easy heavyweight in the organization that stuck around for like 3+ fights. I haven't been the biggest Karl Williams supporter. He's been like bigger chalk in some of his other fights here. Obviously, heavyweights be heavyweights. Justin Tafa is dangerous for the knockout, but I mean, I feel like Karl Williams gets those takedowns, gets them early and often, wears them down, and maybe gets like a late second or early third round finish. Like, I think Tafa's wrestling is going to be put to the test. Haven't really seen it put to the test, but Williams, is going to go out there with that type of game plan. So it's Williams for me. What about you?
Yeah, listen, my gut tells me Williams is the play of the week. Top ticket, load up. This is an easy path to victory, and he just walks and just rolls them up. So my gut tells me. My brain tells me, ooh, it's Karl Williams. Could you want to put this guy on the top ticket? Because again, he's super untrustworthy. He's not really a heavyweight. He campaigns at 205. Since he's been on this little bit of a run, he's moved to heavyweight. And we've seen that with some other guys on the roster recently. It's like heavyweight's such a thin division that these 205s are willing to just slap on the extra 30, 40 pounds and go up. So Karl Williams, again, he's not the biggest guy going. What I like about him, just like you said, he's willing to wrestle. For that reason, it's definitely why I'm picking him. But that Jimmy Lawson fight, Jimmy Lawson wrestled at Notre Dame. Man. He's actually a very good wrestler. And Karl Williams just mad dogged. I mean, he was fast, he's explosive. Because he's a 205er, he's got that speed. He's got a decent right hand, very quick with it. And he lands 3 takedowns over the more accredited Jimmy Lawson. You'd have to check, but he's cashed as like a plus 300 underdog over Jimmy Lawson on his Contender Series fight. So right then and there, it's like the boy can obviously wrestle. Lucas Brachewski, same thing. He goes out, he lands 8 takedowns. Tons of control, solid. I like Williams. This is my guy. Stick to the game plan. He doesn't really care if anybody's booing. He doesn't really care if it's not like the hottest performance of the night or the 50 G's ain't worth waiting for him. He's going to get that win bonus by taking guys down and controlling them. Love it. It's the Chase Sherman fight. So he goes 1 for 10 on takedowns against Chase Sherman, which to me is problematic because Chase Sherman is not really a good wrestler. So only be able to get 1, got it early, got about 2.5 minutes of top control, wasn't able to get it. Good news is that his plan B of just having to strike with Chase Sherman, it worked, right? So he's not just a one-dimensional, I have to get the takedowns, but that's going to be him winning rounds easy. That's going to be him at his best. Yeah, there's a plan B if need be, but we'd rather just get those takedowns. When I look at Tafa, Tafa wasn't supposed to have this fight at all. He's supposed to fight a couple weeks back. His brother steps in for him, right? Mm-hmm. His brother looks awful. Who is the better of the two Tafa brothers, if we're being real? It just gets his leg completely kicked off, falls over about 6 times, gets stopped. Tafa gets switched over. He's now in this fight with Karl Williams, and I just don't really know what he brings to the table. You mentioned the 100% takedown defense, and that is, in fact, a real stat. Shockingly enough, a real stat. 8 fights in the UFC and a 100% takedown defense. Of those 8 opponents, as Paul mentioned, none of them are wrestlers, but only 2 of them actually attempted takedowns, and it was 1 each. It was Harry Hunsucker tried once, and Carlos Felipe tried once. Mm-hmm. Like those are the 2 guys that tried to take him down. So it's a very misleading stat. Karl Williams is taking down bigger guys. He's taking down better guys, and there's no reason to believe he shouldn't get the takedown here. But when you're not an actual heavyweight and you're muscling around these bigger boys, and this Tafa, he's got a really low center of gravity, big, thick legs on him. If you can't take him down, which is also a possibility, you couldn't take Chase Sherman down. If you can't take him down, well, then yeah, now you're subjective to what the judges are thinking. Because Williams is still going to be faster, and I still think he'll probably land some more volume if it ends up being a striking battle. But Tafa is built like a rock, and he's going to hit like a hammer. And those few shots that he does land could be enough to persuade the judges. So when you watch the tape on him, it doesn't appear that he can grapple. And for that reason, I think Karl Williams does make this look easy. But on a card where everybody is an untrustworthy apple pie shitter, Williams hasn't done it to us yet. He's looked good enough in his 3 wins so far that we've been, able to bet on him. But that last one with Sherman was like writing was starting to be on the wall that he's eventually not going to get the takedowns and he's going to get beat up. It's that, do we think Tafa is the guy to do that? I don't think so. So I'm rolling with Williams. I'm just trying to figure out how much do I really do trust this guy.
I backed Chase at like plus 350 against Karl last time out.
You gave him a go, man.
Well, and that my general mentality with that and why I did it and why I would not pick Tafa here is because I really don't know if Karl Williams is able to implement the game plan of like wrestle, hold up against the cage, tire him out. I always kind of think of Tafa as more of like a front runner, right? He's got to kind of knock you out in the first 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes, or he's probably going to fade away later on in the fight. Whereas with Chase, we know he's bare knuckle boxing aside, that guy knocks dudes out in bare knuckle boxing. But in like MMA, he's historically kind of one of those guys that like loses round 1 and then has decent cardio and takes over in the later rounds. That was generally my mindset, and Karl Williams was able to scrape that one out. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like Tafa, his wrestling's going to be put to the test. I'm going to bet against, Australian wrestling that's only been tested against Harry Hunsucker and Carlos Felipe. I'm going to say that he's not going to be ready for it. Maybe I'll be wrong. Moving on down, we've got Edmen Shahbazyan taking on AJ Dobson. Shahbazyan is a minus 200 favorite. Dobson can be had for plus 170. I bet the under in this fight, like minus 132, under 2.5 rounds. One, because like Dobson, when he was on Contender Series and in like before his UFC fights, we kind of looked at this guy as like has decent power, pretty raw, pretty green. And I feel like skill for skill, like Edmen Shahbazyan was supposed to be like a top-notch prospect. He was priced as a top-notch prospect against some opponents that were frankly more skilled than him multiple times already in his UFC tenure here. And he's obviously, got plenty of heart, plenty of skill. Wrestling is obviously a massive, red flag for him, but Dobson hasn't really shown me all that much capability to take advantage of that. I guess he did take down Armin Petrosian 3 times. I don't know.
My boy Armin can't wrestle. Keep in mind, my boy Armin can fight, but my boy Armin can't wrestle.
I took the under in this fight. I think Edmen Shahbazyan eventually just kind of outclasses him on the feet, lands an absolute nuke, or maybe, kill or tries to kill him so much he dies trying. And maybe Dobson can catch a hold of him. But Shahbazyan would be the pick for me, but I'm on the under 2.5 rounds. What about you?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'd be leaning towards the over 2.5 rounds, just simply because of how both guys are trending lately. Shahbazyan, ultra talented, no doubt about it. But yeah, he's fighting the toughest guys, the worst matchups, and his cardio just is not up to snuff. Yeah, he's got the skills, but the longer these fights go, world-class competition, but the longer these fights go, is you can really see him fall from, black belt level striking, black belt level Muay Thai, black belt level jiu-jitsu, to all of a sudden brown belt, to all of a sudden purple belt, to all of a sudden he's gassed out, to all of a sudden he's getting beat up. But Derek Brunson at the time, was certainly a fringe contender, top 5, top 10 guy. Jack Hermanson is, for the last 5 years, been a fringe contender, top 10 guy. Nasruddin Imavov is definitely improving, fighting his best fights recently. Last loss is to what? Sean Strickland, giving the guy an extra 10 pounds on short notice. Yeah. Imavov's I wouldn't call him a fringe contender at this point, but he's trending in that direction, and he's a top 15 guy, and then finally gets back on track with a win, and they give him Anthony Hernandez. He was like a future title challenger at very least. The guy's an absolute wrecking machine. Yeah, none of these are easy fights. The kid still could be undefeated had he taken the easy fights. The kid still could be, winning in spectacular fashion and getting these highlight reel KOs and getting these $50,000 bonuses had he chosen to take the easy fights. But what I like about him is that he's put himself out of his comfort zone. Now, here's the thing with Shahbazyan, okay? He's been training MMA since he's like 8 years old. And he's been, for the most part, training McDojo bullshit, right? He's under Edmen Traverdian. He's hanging out in Sacramento or in California. He's got a cast of killer Armenians around him. And yeah, there's good pieces and good elements to his game. But overall, he's under the same system that ruined Ronda Rousey, the same system that ruined Travis Brown, the same system that ruined Clay Guida and Jake Ellenberger for the one fight that they took there. Quite literally the same system that Leon Shahbazyan never really made it because he's a product of that. There's just something in the water, not good. But he's taking tough fights so that he leaves. He leaves and he goes to Las Vegas. And I think what people don't understand is that you've been doing martial arts under one program with one set of coaches, with one idea for 15, 16, 17 years of your life. And now you're in Las Vegas with proper coaching and proper training partners and a proper regimen for 2 years. Like, it's not just going to happen overnight. But he's only 26. So to say he's a broken prospect or he's a write-off, brother, he's fought in way better guys. Imagine he's just coming off the LFA regional scene right now at 26 years old. His skill set, the guys he's fought, the experiences he's had, man, the guy would be one of the top prospects in the sport still. But he went the Aaron Pico route, where it's like he took just the worst fights and lost. It doesn't mean he's not skilled. It just means he's got to find his vibe and get some easier opponents and rack up some wins. Going back to your under 2.5 is like him at his best hits that under 2.5 all day long. Because, yeah, he's a potent finisher. The kid knows how to go at it. My idea, though, is that he's gassing in all these fights. Undeniably, he's gassing in all these fights. And I think that's a byproduct of he's taught kill, kill, kill right away. Ronda Rousey style. Let's armbar them in 30 seconds. Let's get that first round finish as quick as possible. That's how he fights. That's his style. And that eventually runs into a brick wall of an opponent who won't go away in the first round, and he can't beat those guys. So now being in Vegas, I would think that they try to reel him back. Yes, you're skilled. Let's throw less punches per round. Let's move a little less per round. Let's exhaust a little less energy per round and just overall fight smarter. You're eventually going to see that out of him. Dobson, meanwhile, he's durable enough that I think he can take some of Shahbazyan's shots, but also he's going to be looking to wrestle. Like, how you beat Shahbazyan is not stay at range with him unless you want to throw crazy volume, which Dobson does not do. You want to wrestle with him. Shahbazyan's been getting taken down by pretty much all these guys. The more you wrestle with him, the more tired he gets. The more tired he gets, he's not a good fighter. So Dobson will come in here the way he's been fighting his last number of opponents. Get in the clinch, muscle him on the ground. He's not the biggest power puncher, but he's a very physically strong guy. Used to be a power lifter out of Ohio. And again, if he's able to just muscle him around in the clinch, lean on Shahbazyan, get Shahbazyan to get tired, then that low volume, high power style will probably win rounds, if not just win the fight outright against Shahbazyan. So Shahbazyan needs to fight the smart game plan, needs to stick to the outside, needs to move around, needs to use the speed advantage, needs to use those kicks. And if the fight goes to the ground, you're the better grappler, but don't exhaust yourself in those attempts. So for me, Dobson's going to be fighting a clinch heavy, slow this fight down type of style. And Shahbazyan will likely fight a conserve your energy so that you don't blow your wad like you do in all of your losses type of style. And both of those would yield towards the over 2.5 rather than the under 2.5. So I will agree with you. I got Shahbazyan. I think he's still getting better. I still think he's making improvements. I think this will be a good fight for him, but it won't be an easy fight for him. And he'll have to mind his P's and Q's. So because of that, I would go Shahbazyan by decision.
Let's do a shoey bet on this total.
On the over 2.5, under 2.5?
Yeah.
You got yourself a goddamn deal, Paul Shaughnessy. I'm in.
Let's go. I mean, Shahbazyan is fighting at a higher level of competition, but like most of his recent fights are going under. He went to the decision against Jack Hermanson. And I know, credit where, AJ Dobson, all of his fights leading up to Contender Series and including Contender Series were like first round finishes. And then it's been decisions ever since then. So, yeah, the game plan could lend its hand to AJ Dobson, getting takedowns, holding position, making this an ugly fight. I think it's a fair little shoey bet. We haven't done one in a while. You're on one side, I'm on the other. Let's line it up. All right, we got Payton Talbott taking on Cameron Saaiman. Payton Talbott is a minus 150 favorite. Cameron Saaiman can be had for plus 130. Who you got here?
Yeah, okay, so this is the devil you know versus the devil you don't know, right? The devil you know is Cameron Saaiman. This guy's legitimately good. We know he's good. He's 23 years old. He's a solid prospect. He's got decent cardio, solid striking. Chin, I mean, yeah, it's there to get hit, and he has been hit, and he has been hurt, but he never been knocked out. Like he overcomes it because he's young, and he's in excellent shape. Bit of a wild man, but again, the guy can fight. You saw his own fight with Christian Rodriguez, very competitive, and he's fighting one of the better prospects in the division, and the guy he's fighting missed weight. So Cameron Saaiman's legit, man, and I think we all know that. Payton Talbott, meanwhile, probably is legit. Looks from the outside looking in, looks legit, but we don't know quite yet, Paul. Undefeated as an amateur, undefeated as a pro. Can't say he's necessarily fought the highest level of competition. Wins on the Contender Series, comes into the UFC against Nick Aguirre, huge favorite. And we're all over him, right? And loses the first round to Nick Aguirre, got taken down, got held down, gave up his back, gave up 2 takedowns in that fight. Second round, he starts to come back alive, wins the second. Not like there's super high volume, not like it's, I can't say he's not a power striker because he hurt, he worked him to the body in the third round, chokes him out with the rear naked choke. But again, Talbot 25, he's still young, still green, hasn't fought the best guys, hasn't tested himself, hasn't really faced deep adversity, hasn't been hurt, hasn't been tired. The thing is, he's one of these prodigies of, I live in Las Vegas and I'm young and I've just got the best outlets around me and the best training around me. And yeah, like he's been a career Las Vegas guy. No doubt about it. He gets top-notch rounds in the gym against some of the best guys. I think he's a legitimate prospect. Again, though, this is not an easy fight. This is not, let's give him 2, 3, 4, 5 fights and then throw him in against another prospect. They're just throwing him right to the wolves. Not wolves, but they're just throwing him in against another top prospect. So it's tough waters. It almost does remind you of last week's matchup with Dulgarian and Christian Rodriguez. Dulgarian is will be a top guy. He's a top prospect with a lot of shine on him that people expect big things from. And Rodriguez is the exact same boat. These guys will fight again. These guys might fight 3 times once it's all said and done in their careers. They're both going to get to that highest point of the mountain. So it's a little strange that they're fighting right now. And that's how I feel with this matchup. Cameron Saaiman's coming off a loss to a very good guy, I would think, young, 23 years old. Let's build him back up. Let's give him another soft, competitive, but soft matchup. Build the kid back up. Instead, he gets Payton Talbott, and Talbot likewise, they really want to see how good he is by giving him a stiff test. So anyways, as far as the matchup itself works out, it seems like Cameron Saaiman's got way more volume. I wouldn't say faster, and it's definitely not the cleaner technique, but he's, again, one of these guys that judges prefer because he's coming forward. He's got his, foot on the gas. He's throwing tons of volume. He's landing. And I think they're looking at a lot of ring generalship. Who's going forward? Who's being the aggressor? Who's cutting off the cage? Who's trying to fight? And who's landing the bigger shots? And to me, that does seem like it would edge out Cameron Saaiman's favor. Talbot, meanwhile, I think he's going to be the better grappler. Again, he is slicker. If it was a big cage, which it's not, I do think he's got superior footwork, stay to the outside, use the jab, use long-range kicks, cause Saaiman to get drawn in. When Saaiman comes forward, level change and take him down. In a small cage, still all possible, but yeah, this is a lightweight class. There's going to be tons of scrambles. There's going to be tons of action, and for a guy that just lost a round to Nick Aguirre in his last fight, doesn't exactly bode well. I will give him this. The longer that fight went, you could see him getting comfortable in real time. You could see him accruing experience, and you could see him getting better. And by the second round, he wins. And by early in the third round, less than a minute into the third round, he gets the finish. Very nice. But that's a young fighter developing on the fly. He looked like a slow starter. Cameron Saaiman is not really a slow starter. He's going to be looking to fight right from the onset. So if you drop that early round to him, now you're fighting 0-2 out of the hole. This is not a great spot to be for a favorite, right? So yeah, not all the favorites are going to win. And I guess I would rather go with the guy I know is good and let Payton Talbot prove it to me. So Cameron Saaiman, slight dog money, that's where I would lie it.
Interesting. Yeah, I kind of looked at this as like Payton Talbot was, in his fight on Contender Series, he put up 145 significant strikes. That's more than like Saaiman has put up in any of his fights. So I kind of looked at him as being, 5'11" for this weight class, super long, 70-inch reach. He's got a slight reach advantage over Saaiman. And then the great equalizer that I don't really have the answer to is like grappling. I think Talbot, his frame kind of indicates that like he's probably going to be easy to take down. Nick Aguirre is a good grappler, a good jiu-jitsu practitioner, but not much of a wrestler. He's able to take him down twice. But Saaiman, so you go back to the Kozlov fight, he was taken down 5 times there.
Yeah, and lost the first 2 rounds. You're not wrong.
So I think you summed up a lot of it pretty well. I'm ever so slightly leaning towards Talbott, mostly based on what I perceive as if it just turns into a striking match. He's got the slight reach advantage. I know that he trains and lives in Vegas, so he's a little bit more familiar with the scene. And 145 significant strikes in that fight against Reyes Cortez. That's going to be tough to overcome, that much volume over the course of 3 rounds. But yeah, I do think it's a relatively close fight. And if Saaiman, who has been in the octagon more often than Talbot, has a little bit more experience, a little bit more grind, is able to get takedowns, stay out of trouble from a submission grappling perspective, and hold position, which we have seen him actually get a few takedowns in some of his fights. He's obviously working out. Both of these guys are like a work in progress, as you were saying. Wouldn't be totally stunned to see Saaiman, use a little bit more of a wrestle-heavy approach in this fight. Either way, it's going to be a great fight, a really unsung kind of fight, and a fight that maybe we'll look back on five years from now and be like, remember when this is like high
the rematch.
Yeah,
you're looking at the first time they fought.
This is like high.
It'll happen.
I was thinking of who was it? I think it was it Gustafsson and John Jones fought way back in the day, and then they had the rematch, and the rematch was obviously completely baller. I think that's maybe a tall task to be comparing those guys to this, but yeah, it happens multiple times in the UFC where it's just like young prospects match up against each other early on in their career, later on down the road. Maybe it was Bader versus Phil Davis, maybe, that I'm thinking of. Either way. Talbot for me, Saaiman for you. We got Billy Quarantillo taking on Youssef Zalal. Quarantillo is a -140 favorite. Zalal can be had for +120. Who you got?
Yeah, again, just another case of a guy that's inconsistent but ultra talented. Youssef Zalal. I mean, the first time around in the UFC, he was cashing tickets early. I mean, he gets a 3-fight winning streak right off the get-go, and you're seeing a lot of versatility out of him. He's a Factory X Muay Thai guy, training out of Denver, Colorado. He's got the altitude. He's got solid cardio. He's got pretty solid durability, and he is a pretty solid striker. Flashy in ways, but also his mechanics are solid. Good leg kicks, good jab, decent footwork, moves well. Signed to the UFC, and all of a sudden he's wrestling. He's not fighting the best guys. Austin Lingo, 6 takedowns. The Jordan Griffin fight was actually pretty competitive, but he wins. Pete Barrett, 3 takedowns. Then he runs into Ilia Topuria. Now, to his credit, didn't know Ilia Topuria was Ilia Topuria at the time. And in fact, a lot of people had picked Zalal to win that fight. He was 3-0 in the UFC at the time. He had some hype, and he's only like 24, 25 years old. He went the distance with Topuria. He basically got hit with nothing. I think it was like 17 significant strikes or 25 significant strikes maybe landed by Topuria. And he actually tired out Topuria in the 3rd round. Had a decent 3rd round with him. Pretty much the only guy that's ever really tired out and really looked good against Ilia Topuria. Debut, blah, 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 long time ago. I get it. But again, Youssef Zalal does have some legitimate skills. The same camp that's produced Brandon Royval. I mean, it's an excellent team to be around. Sungwoo Choi, disappointing fight. He did get 3 takedowns. Sean Woodson, another disappointing fight. Very close. Split decision. He outstrikes Sean Woodson. He took down Sean Woodson twice. The loss didn't age awfully because Sean Woodson's still kicking some ass in the UFC to this day. But again, it's just like the losses are starting to rack him up. And then Damon Blackshear, talk about a tough fight, but he didn't look awful against Damon Blackshear. Loses early, fights his way back into it, ends up being a draw, and they cut him. So since then, he's won 1 fight on, it's a weird scenario. He wins a fight on the regional scene, a couple fights on the regional scene, and then he joins this like one-night tournament called the Sparta Combat League. It's like a one-night tournament, and you box a guy, you kickbox a guy, and then you fight a guy in an MMA fight. It's one-night tournament, 3 fights, boxing match, kickboxing match, MMA fight. It's wins all three. So now the UFC's like, okay, cool, we'll bring it back. Cody Durden's actually won the exact same tournament, so it's something that guys do, especially if you want to show them you're willing to fight whoever, whenever, and get the thing done. It's a good way to get experience and keep active. And again, Youssef Zalal can kickbox, he can box, he can do MMA, he can do it all. So, yeah, I mean, just like I got faith in this guy at 27 coming back to the UFC that he's primed to probably go on another run and he's primed to win some fights and he's primed to cash some tickets. Is that it's not an easy fight to come back to. They haven't said, welcome back, fight some guy from the Contender Series. Welcome back, fight some guy on a bit of a losing streak. It's welcome back, fight another fringe contender, top 15 type guy in Billy Q, who's got just a cast iron chin and a motor for days, solid jiu-jitsu, the BJJ black belt. Wrestling, yeah, very opportunistic, willing to scramble, willing to wrestle, willing to exhaust himself, willing to land over 100 significant strikes. It's like the best version of Zalal needs to show up because that version wins. But is that expecting too much of him on his first fight back? You know, his first real jump back up in competition. Like, is that maybe a bit of a stretch? And so I was down to pick Zalal, but minus 145 Billy as a line is very sensible, man. Very sensible. And that leads me thinking that, you know, the value play probably still is Billy Q, right? Billy Q, again, the worry for me here is that I think Youssef is the superior offensive wrestler. And I think that he will score takedowns against Billy. If you can find a book that offers you an over 1.5, maybe I don't know if I would take the 2.5, but I think he at least gets 2 takedowns over Billy Q and he makes them work. But the discussion that we had earlier, you know, the Bulgarian versus Rodriguez fight, it's not who's getting the takedowns and who's securing a minute or two of top control. It's who's constantly working, who's constantly scrambling, and who's constantly landing and doing damage and coming forward. And that is Billy Q. Now, how do you neutralize that? Is by flush knocking him out, Edson Barbosa style. But Youssef's not that guy. So for minus 145, yeah, I got to go with Billy Q. You and I have had a lot of luck betting him in the past. He fights for your dollar. I'm willing to back him again here on a returning Youssef Zalal.
Yeah, like, it all comes down to price. It always does, at least for me. And the fact of the matter is Billy Q, the volume that Billy Q puts up, I've just never seen anything from Zalal that shows me that he can do that. So for the plus 120 price tag, you got to be thinking to yourself, Youssef Zalal's going to go out there, be able to get takedowns, hold position over the course of 3 rounds. Not completely out of the realm of possibility, but I feel like that price is pretty short for a game plan that, like, he can do, but Billy's not just like, you know, he doesn't just go starfish on his back and just, like, let you hold him down. Like, he is fighting to get back up, and when he does, you know he's going to be throwing, like, 50 strikes to finish that round. So I think it really comes down to a volume play, and Billy Q minus 140 seems more than fair as far as I'm concerned. So Billy Q for me as well. We got Fernando Padilla taking on Luis Pajuelo, minus 165 for Padilla, plus 145 for Pajuelo. Who you got?
Yeah, honestly, it's another bit of one of these, who knows, just what version of each guy shows up. Padilla looked like he was going to be serviceable. Another one of these tough Mexican guys, come forward, can throw volume, can throw power, and is willing to make it a fight. Yeah, superior wrestlers or grapplers can neutralize him. But again, he's going to be the one looking to fight, looking to do damage, and those guys are live against anybody. His UFC debut, he won against Cameron Graves on one of those looking for a fight. Dana's looking for a fight. Knocks the guy out. Nasty elbow, highlight reel finish. Dana says, okay, great, we'll bring you over to the UFC. Fights Julian Erosa in his debut. That's a tough debut. We'll talk about Erosa a little bit later, but not an easy debut fighting a guy that's got 10 fights with the promotion and a bunch of solid victories against guys like Charles Jourdain and Sean Woodson. It's a tough task. But again, Padilla looking to bang. Erosa, not exactly the most durable guy going. Padilla puts him away. So at this point, he's building up some legitimate hype here. And then he runs into Kyle Nelson. So again, he's like, ooh, I want to make sure I got it right. Minus 250 favorite over Kyle Nelson. One of the bigger favorites of the card. I think me, you, and Rob watched that together. I took a bath on him. Yeah. It was almost like a Daniel Zellhuber, Trey Ogden performance, you know, where it's like you've got all this skill and you're just a deer in the headlights staring at your opponent. Can't discredit Kyle Nelson. He came to fight. But that fact that he came to fight just throttled Padilla's game plan completely. The fact that Nelson was continuously coming forward and that Nelson was undeterred by the shots he landed, didn't get tired, didn't go away. You know, they grappled along the fence and Kyle Nelson was the stronger man. He leaned on him. He wore on him. And so Padilla didn't really have a plan B. He really didn't have the ability to switch the game plan. It was a competitive fight. Don't get me wrong. But it just led me to believe that, again, he's green, he's learning, and he's going to be dropping rounds to certain guys. When I look through other of his losses, it's pretty much universal. He fights good guys and he gets out-muscled. His first career loss is Dan Ige. He loses to this Tailson Soares, who retired 11-2. Kurt Kinser. Kurt Kinser was a beast, man. He lost a split decision to him. And Kinser retired something like 9-2, 10-2. He's pretty solid. Spike Carlisle. Spike Carlisle, we remember him from his UFC run, his Bellator run, his Rizin Japan run. He's just so physically strong. Not that good, but very physically strong. Those are the guys that continuously give Fernando Padilla problems. So when he fought Kyle Nelson, Nelson's best characteristic is that he is a bit of a dog. He's a bit of a dog. He's willing to come forward and mix it up, lean on you, be strong in that clinch, and that's kind of how you beat him. When I look at Luis Pajuelo, 29 years old. So again, mature. Yeah, he's already there. Physically, he's pretty much there. I wouldn't say the guy's in his prime. He's probably still a few more years away from that. But he's not super experienced, but he ain't young in the game. So you're going to see a decent enough version of this guy coming forward. As an amateur, I think he went like 7-1. As a pro, his only losses by split decision against a solid enough guy. But I mean, Paul, he's just very physically strong, hits like an absolute hammer, comes forward. And I just been harping this time and time again with these guys from Peru. So they're very strong. And that Peru is 5,000 feet altitude, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the same as Denver. When these guys from Peru come over, they're not gassing out. They don't have the greatest technique because the MMA system's a little, further behind than some of these more advanced countries. But the willingness is there. The desire is there. The hunger to get better is there. And they have good cardio and they are very physically strong. So when I look at Pajuelo, he's the same thing, man. And when he fought Robbie Ring's an undefeated. I think he was 8-0 as an amateur. He's 7-0 as a pro. His dad is a black belt. He's a black belt under his dad. His mom's a black belt under the Chuck Norris kickboxing system. Robbie Ring is your all-American boy, undefeated, career martial artist, been doing it since he was 4 years old, right? Taking on this very hungry Peruvian guy who hits like an absolute hammer. And you saw every time he hit, Robbie had never felt anything like that. Mm-hmm. Robbie did manage to get the one takedown. It seemed like there was just so much compound damage and probably pressure because of the moment that he just didn't capitalize on said takedown. But you could see that Luis Pajuelo was just constantly working to get back up. As soon as he got back up, he goes to the body, he goes to the head. He's willing to box you up in the clinch. He becomes problematic. He becomes problematic to a guy like Fernando Padilla because he's willing to come forward. He's probably the stronger man in the clinch. He's going to be landing the heavier shots, and I just don't see him going away and tiring out. He fights probably a similar type game plan to Kyle Nelson, and it's equally as effective. Last but not least, how does Fernando Padilla, get around it? Well, he could go to trying to get the takedowns. If Robbie Ring did it, then why couldn't Fernando Padilla do it? Well, because he's not shown any propensity to take guys down in his fights. He's scored no takedowns so far in his 2 UFC goes. He hasn't really looked to be taking guys down for the most part. And his losses are typically when he's the one getting out-wrestled. So he's not just going to suddenly change who he is. Okay, so plan B then. If I'm not going to out-wrestle this guy and I need to stand with him, then how do I beat the heavier power puncher? It's like you just got to go with volume. But I don't think that's on the table because he just physically got outworked by Kyle Nelson in your last fight, who's not the biggest volume guy. You physically just got outworked. And I'll tell you what, man, this Luis kid, he landed 9.15 strikes per minute against Robbie Ring, man. God damn. He landed 34 significant strikes in like 3.5 minutes into the first round. It did not look like he was getting tired. And if my theory is correct about these Peruvian guys living and training and breathing that 5,000 foot, we're not even talking Machu Picchu, dog. We're talking the average of Peru is 5,000 feet. I think Luis boxes him up and hurts him and just outmuscles him, wins the fight. So I would take Luis Pajuelo.
All right. Dog or pass? I mean... So Padilla has never been finished. Took on Dan Ige, went to decision with him. So credit where credit's due. Mm-hmm. He's able to, take a shot and go 15. He's shown that in all of his defeats. It's like he's able to at least go the full 15. All I'm saying, if you want to spice it up even more, you don't have to. It's already a plus 145, but like Pajuelo plus 475 by decision. I'm staring at here. I mean, the guy.
I don't mind that. I don't mind.
The guy put up 34 significant strikes in like 3.5 minutes on the Contender Series. Yeah, sure, the fight could be relatively close, and and Padilla does present some problems. in terms of his length and his striking ability. But I don't know. I'm taking the shot on Pajuelo by decision there, plus 475. Can't help myself, Cody. So I'm with you on that one. All right, moving on down, we got Trey Ogden taking on Kurt Holobaugh, minus 145 for Trey Ogden, plus 130 for Kurt Holobaugh. Man, that Trey Ogden fight against Daniel Zellhuber has cost me so much money, Cody. Because it's just like when either one of these guys show up to a fight, I watch, I will like either remember or I'll rewatch that fight for doing tape and that type of stuff. And I've like faded Zellhuber twice, and now Zellhuber's looking like the prospect that we kind of all thought he could be. And that fight is like one of the biggest head scratchers, to be perfectly honest. And then like Ogden, after doing that, kind of shows up against Ignacio Bahamondes and looks who we thought Trey Ogden was all along. Credit where credit's due, Trey Ogden did look good last time out against Nicholas Mata, and I mean, that premature stoppage was pretty egregious. Like, nobody except for Mata and his mother were thinking that Trey Ogden, at the very worst, wasn't going to cruise to a decision, even if it wasn't stopped there in round 3. He was absolutely dominating that fight. Kind of hated how that one was called a no contest due to a premature stoppage, because it was kind of one of those things with like referees that you're kind of like, why can't, all right, the ref made a mistake. I know that they're like, oh, we got to call it a no contest now. It's just like, that's a worse result than like him making the mistake in the first place. Like, you literally stole the win bonus money out of Trey Ogden's hands. Like, he absolutely dominated Nicholas Mata from pillar to post in that fight. So you had to feel for him that he got robbed there. Tough fight against a savvy veteran in Kurt Holobaugh here. Who do you got in this matchup, Cody?
Yeah. No, I do feel for Trey Ogden, because if the fight was 1-1, if it was competitive, if it was like Trey Ogden's trying to he's down 2 rounds and he's got this 3rd round submission and the ref stops it, I'm down with the no contest, because it's like there was a flow and there was something going on and he was either trying to beat the clock or it was 1-1 and the guy never tapped. I get it. That was a one-way. It should have been a technical decision. So, dude, I'm so sorry I stopped this. Let's just go to the scorecards. What do the judges think? Yeah, everybody's got Trey Ogden winning every single second of this fight. Okay, well, there was really no need for this to continue. So, like, the no contest is obviously by the rules the fair decision, but yeah, it should be a win for Trey Ogden. The UFC doesn't say, you know what, let's run it back, because why bother? It's a terrible fight, and everybody pretty much knows Ogden won. But they booked Mata. He's already fought. He fought like a month ago, and now they're booking Ogden separate fights. I just don't understand why Ogden, who took 0 damage, should have won. I think they did pay him his win bonus, for the record.
Good.
I don't know. Why not jump right back in there? Who knows? Doesn't matter. This is a cool fight because honestly, it's your coach versus, the other team's coach. That's what it is. You've got Trey Ogden. He's 34 years old. He's paid his dues. When Glory MMA and Fitness kind of went down under, didn't go down under, but James Krause had to step aside for obvious reasons. Trey Ogden's the one that stepped up. So he's running the facility now. He's the head coach. And similar to when Krause is running it, he himself has gotten a lot better. And I don't know if it's just constant reps or being the guy in charge or whatever the case may be, but you can see Ogden getting a little bit better. There's been absolute dud performances like the Jordan Levitt fight, right? And then the very next fight, he takes what Jordan Levitt did to him and does it to Daniel Zellhuber. There's a guy that's still improving. Yes, 34 years old, but smart guy, intelligent guy, high ring IQ. And even though he's not the most skilled guy, the most physical, no punching power, no real volume, let's be real. His wrestling, got 3 takedowns over Nicholas Mata, but for the most part, not a wrestler. He fights good game plans. That's what's allowing him to thrive and win fights, is that he fights very accordingly, very, very intelligently, so to speak. Kurt Holobaugh, meanwhile, he's 37 years old. He's been cut from the UFC, I think, twice already. Like, this is his 3rd go-around. Comes through on the Ultimate Fighter of all places, even though he's like 36 years old at the time, and wins that. But yeah, man, he's a junkyard dog. Does come from a wrestling background. He's given up quite a few takedowns of his own. But again, he's an excellent scrambler, BJJ black belt. If you do take him down, don't expect to hold him down for long periods of time. And I think that's what Ogden would need. When you've got when he gets back up, Kurt Holobaugh, yeah, I mean, he throws caution to the wind. He's willing to pressure guys. He's willing to come forward. I know it's going back years ago, but when you go to like some of those fight metrics, him versus Roundy Barcelos, he had landed 102. He got finished a minute and a half into round 3. He won the first 2 rounds, but in those first 2 rounds is where he accrued 100 significant strikes through 2 rounds. Besides that, I mean, he's generally getting the fights over with. Him versus Austin Hubbard, his last time out, 2nd round submission, he had 61 significant strikes landed. Now, he got taken down twice by Hubbard, but again, taking him down is one thing. Holding him down is something completely different. The guy's very, very tricky with his submission game. He creates scrambles. He works his way back up. And when he works his way back up, he comes forward. If the judges, what we've seen from last week, if the judges are looking for a fight and they're looking for who's coming to fight and win a fist fight on a Saturday night, yeah, it's hard to say Kurt Holobaugh's not fighting for it, man. And I think that's the main difference here, is that I don't see Ogden hurting him with any of his techniques. Like, I don't think he gets his respect and gets the dog off of him. I don't think that constantly taking him down and winning long, prolonged periods of the round is on the table. Maybe a takedown or 2, maybe even 3 takedowns. Great, just like you did against Moda. But this isn't an undersized lightweight like Nicholas Moda with a suspect ground game. This is a very big Kurt Holobaugh, big for the weight class, physically strong. Yeah, he's 37. Okay, I get it. But it looks like he's fighting his best fights right now. And Ogden's 34. So there's not some huge age discrepancy there. Tempted to say Ogden puts together a brilliant game plan, wins rounds, makes this thing super tricky, and greases out a split decision. But if the judges are looking for damage and forward aggression and strikes, Kurt Holobaugh. And the pick is going to be Kurt Holobaugh.
Yeah, Kurt, that Austin Hubbard fight, he kind of showed that he's got that dog in him. He's just lots of volume, great jiu-jitsu, and he's just got a wealth of experience. He knows that the time is now. That's kind of like I watched some of that season of The Ultimate Fighter.
He was going to retire, yeah.
Yeah, like he was an enjoyable guy. He's like, he's out there with his family making crawfish, real Louisiana boy through and through. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never obviously, I said it right at the beginning of this, is that like I've pretty much always been pretty dead wrong on Trey Ogden. I don't think I had Mata last time out, but I may have. But yeah, that Zellhuber one really, really stung. I did not see that one coming from a mile away. So this guy's like always been kind of tricky for me to figure out fight to fight. I'll side with you with the veteran and Kurt Holobaugh. I think if the fight does go to the mat, Austin Hubbard was able to take down Kurt twice, but the threat of those submissions was enough in some spots, and obviously he got the submission on the triangle choke as well. So it's a dangerous game plan to go down into that realm, and when they're on the feet, he's just throwing hammers, throwing caution to the wind, almost throwing them like he knows that this is his last shot. So give me the old dog in Kurt Holobaugh as well. Moving on down, we've got Ricardo Ramos taking on Julian Erosa. Ricardo Ramos is a minus 150 favorite. Erosa can be had for plus 130. I took the under in this one, Cody. I took minus 160 under 2.5 rounds because Ricardo Ramos has the ability to get submissions, but also is kind of, last time out showed that even he can get submitted, which was a bit of a head scratcher, one that, a lot of people were not expecting Charles Jourdain to get a guillotine choke on him. And then Erosa, we know that the chin has just always been a liability. Throws up a ton of volume, super, super exciting fighter. But I just see a lot of ways for this one to end inside the distance. I'm going to lean towards Erosa just on the fact that, like, Ramos isn't, like, the biggest, like, power puncher by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a guy who always struggles on the scales, seems to have a bit of cardio issues, particularly when he struggles on the scales. So I'm thinking Erosa by KO is where I would think here. But yeah, Ramos's fights are always like pretty wild. Should be a great fight, like one of the more entertaining fights on the card. And Yeah. In terms of like an actual side, not the biggest thing, but I do like the under. What about you?
Yeah. So again, this is just another classic example of two super inconsistent guys with just so much talent. When you look at Ricardo Ramos, he's still only 28 years old. He's fought a whole bunch of guys. And him at his best, dog, let's talk about some credible wins, man. He knocked out Edmen Zahabi, who's on a 4-fight winning streak right now. I don't personally care for him too much, but knocked him out with a spinning back elbow in the third round. Pretty dope. He also got a win over Mr. Perfect, Kyo Hung Kang. Solid victory. He's got a win over Bill Algeo, which he took him down 8 times and absolutely just plastered him to the canvas. That one aged pretty good. And I guess so there's 3 big wins, but all the same, like 3 legitimately big wins. His fight with Danny Chavez is another spinning back elbow. So I mean, he's finished 2 fights in his UFC career by spinning back elbow. He's got 3 solid victories. He's still only 28 years old. He spent a lot of time at Team Alpha Male trying to shore up his own wrestling abilities. It seems like he's still a legitimate prospect on the cusp of breaking one over and being good. You know, been competitive against some good guys in the past. Just can't really seem to break on through. Julian Erosa, meanwhile, you want to talk about credible victories? This guy's got a pile of credible victories. Got a win over Jamal Emmers. Got a win over Sean Woodson. Nate Landwehr, whom he knocked out. Charles Jourdain, who he choked out. Hakeem Dawadu. All good wins. All solid wins. It's that whenever he doesn't beat a good guy, whenever he doesn't get his hand raised in victory, it's him getting knocked out. He got no chin. It's super problematic, Paul. Fernando Padilla, who we talked about earlier, knocks him out. First round knockout. Bruce Leroy knocks him out. Also first round. Bruce Leroy's been fighting in the UFC for 13 years. He's got 2 wins by knockout in a 13-year span of time, Paul. Like 30 fights in the UFC, he's knocked out 2 people. One of them being Julian Erosa, who he knocked out in the first round. So back-to-back first-round knockout losses, you know, that's going to be a problem. His loss before that, Sungwoo Choi, you guessed it, first-round knockout. His loss against Julio Arce, 3rd round knockout. Devontae Smith knocked him out 46 seconds into round number 1. This is a loss on the regional scene from 2017 against Bobby McIntyre, who was 5-4 at the time and knocked Julian Erosa out in the first round. Teruto Ishihara on his first go around in the UFC knocked him out 34 seconds into round 2. It's not like he can't take a punch. He's like Matt Schnell. He's actually almost just like Matt Schnell with better wins. He can fight. He's legitimately a talented, good fighter. Everybody in Vegas, all of his training partners rave about work ethic and great teammate and puts all of his time in there. And no doubt about it, the guy can wrestle. The guy can grapple. He's got really good cardio. He can strike. He's got a very, very sneaky style, right? Similar, I can't call him like a Dominic Cruz, but he's got a very herky-jerky, weird Tim Elliott type style where it's a lot of check hooks, it's a lot of step in, it's a lot of setting traps with his feet, it's a lot of keeping his hands low and, you know, relying on that ability to use your reaction time to get out of the way. But the older you get, and Juicy J's starting to get some age on him, you don't necessarily get out of the way in time. And with his track record, when he does not get out of the way in time, he's getting knocked out. He's getting knocked out in the first round or very, very early into the second round. Again, it's just not the kind of guy you can have faith behind. He can win, he should win, and he probably will be winning until he gets caught. But that being on the table, and that being on the table as much as it is, and as present as it is, and as likely as it probably is, yeah, huge red flag. The good news is it's he's the underdog, and I would take him as the underdog. It's plus money. To me, it's a dogger pass for no other reason than, like you said, Ricardo Ramos isn't a huge power puncher. He's knocked out 2 guys with spinning back elbows. He's capable of doing that. But when you look at him on a volume standpoint, he does a lot of staring. He may try to come in with a similar type game plan that he did against Bill Algeo, and that's constantly get takedowns, but not really anybody's success or had a whole lot of success in just continuously taking Juicy J down and holding him down. The way to beating him is by cold cocking him in the face and knocking him out. Yep. Not by ground and pounding him, not by holding him down, not by coming in with some big wrestler heavy approach. So I feel like Erosa makes him work. The longer the fight goes, the volume starts to take over. He's just really going to have to mind his P's and Q's here, Paul. And if he gets knocked out, I'm going to look like an idiot. Why would you bet this guy coming off back-to-back first-round knockout loss? Here's another one. Yeah, that's unfortunately the flip side to the game. And if he was the favorite, I would be fading him for that exact same reason. But he's the underdog. And to me, it's very much a dog or pass type spot. So I will take this ever so slight underdog play here on Juicy J, Julian Erosa to hopefully get back in the win column. Took a year off. For most guys, clear the head. For Juicy J, I'm not sure that chin's ever going to just miraculously come back. But the year off,
Couldn't hurt.
let's say it helps him. Yeah, it doesn't hurt. And we'll go with that theory.
All right, we got Miles Johns taking on Cody Gibson. Miles Johns is a minus 150 favorite. Cody Gibson can be had for plus 130. Who you got here?
So Cody Gibson, legitimately my boy. This is my guy, right? And Miles John, I always feel like I wanted him to be my guy. I went in there with the mentality of this my guy because I love what he brings to the table, right? He's your classic athletic wrestler boxer, and that's what I'm into, right? A guy that can go out there, use his wrestling. He's got college wrestling experience, get the takedowns, in the clinch. He's got solid upper body, strength, good up against the fence, and he's got very serviceable technical boxing. Box guys up, quick combinations, go to the wrestling. Athletic shot from the outside. Decent enough counterpuncher. Goes on a solid winning streak. Beats Adrian Yanez on the regional scene before signing with the UFC. And beats Cole Smith in his debut. And then this is actually, just go back to the Richie Santiago fight Contender Series, right? Richie is not good. And Richie, quite simply, is a punching bag who just walks forward and gets his face busted off. But you see Miles John got tired. So here's an athletic wrestler boxer, but if you put the pressure on him and you come forward, yeah, he's going to start to fatigue. Red flag, but he beat Richie Santiago. Against Cole Smith, exact same red flag. He wins the first 2 rounds against Cole Smith, gasses out, gives up his back. Cole Smith spent like 3.5 minutes with back control in that 3rd round. Couldn't get the rear naked choke, but a very bad look. Another look where he got tired. His fight with Mario Batista starts off well. The longer the fight goes, starts to tire, makes a mistake, boom, flying knee, knocks him out. It's not to fault him by any means. It's that he never quite got over the hump of being able to be like a legitimate top 15 type contender because his cardio is not quite there. And for as much as I like his wrestler boxing style, his boxing, not that good. Quick combinations, no real power, no real substance, no real volume. His wrestling, yeah, college wrestling experience. Not really being able to rely on his wrestling the higher he moves up the food chain. There's a couple wins here and there. Kevin Natividad, Anderson Dos Santos, Vince Morales, all of which are cut from the UFC at this point. So he can win fights against the lower echelon, not succeeding when he gets to that mid-level, and that's kind of where he seems to be stuck. Then there's that last fight against Dan Argueta, where Miles Johns decides for the first time in a very long time to actually show up. Like, I bet Dan Argueta, and he beat the crap out of him. I should say beat the crap out of him. Argueta won the first round, and now all of a sudden Miles John wasn't the one getting tired. He was the one still coming forward. He was the one still looking to wrestle. He was still the one landing combinations. He was the guy that I thought he could have been 2, 3, 4 years ago, is suddenly there in that moment, and he wins, and he cost me a bunch of money because I just didn't think he had it in him. And then boom,
Steroids.
steroids. And it all makes sense. It all makes sense because there's a history of him not being that guy. And then suddenly it's like, boom, turn the corner. For the record, he's got a brother, Elijah Johns, fights for LFA, who's no good. No good. Same thing. Gasses out. First 5 minutes, decent. Anything beyond the first 5 minutes is just like, just put me in a submission already so I can tap. Miles turned the corner. And then so the steroids is very like, ooh, was that it? Seems like it could have been it. And Argueta, who was not known to gas, he was the one gassing out. And the bookie doesn't give you the money back. Your online book doesn't say, oh, my bad, that was a no contest. They switched it back. The one guy cheated. Let me give you your money back. No. You just got to bite the bullet. So Miles John cheated me. He cheated me. And now I don't know what version of him shows up, because the version of him that's able to apply pressure and come forward, he's faster than Cody Gibson. He's more athletic than Cody Gibson. He's got the speed advantage. I think he'll just be able to land, jump out of harm's way. Gibson's going to look to apply his own offensive wrestling. He's a college wrestler as well. Guy was a high school wrestling coach for a decade. He wants to wrestle. 100% he wants to. John's at his best, can wrestle with him. John's at his best on, the GAC. John's at his best. He can also keep pace and keep moving and keep using that speed advantage to beat him with the punch and land the flashier shots. Maybe a takedown or two. Maybe win a scramble or two. Take a round or two. All you need is 2. You get the decision win. If John's goes back to what he was beforehand, then I just feel like Cody Gibson, forward pressure, comes forward, lands takedowns, lands strikes. Gibson's getting old for the weight class. He's not old by human being standards, but 36 years old at 135 pounds, it starts to become problematic. You've seen him go on a couple like stop and starts in his career, go on a run, look like he belongs, big setback. Go on another run, big setback. Look awesome on The Ultimate Fighter. Mando Gutierrez, that's the guy that fought Raul Rosas Jr. on the Contender Series. Smashes him. First round, like nothing. Rico de Solio, tough enough guy. Pretty much the only guy on Team McGregor that got through. Chokes him out in the first round. Runs into Brad Katona. Brad Katona is a two-time Ultimate Fighter winner, right? He's legit. But also, you saw Brad Katona's last fight in Canada. He's not that legit. So again, like, this is going to be a decision type fight. I like the over. I like this fight to outright just go to decision. I think both guys have moments. It really just comes down to Johns' gas tank. And where it looked solved in his last fight, there's an explanation for why it looked solved in his last fight. And if he goes back to the way he was beforehand, I feel like Gibson bites down on the gum shield, lands the bigger shots, and squeaks this one out. So all I can really get at is, to me, it falls into a dogger pass type situation again. And for that reason, ever so slightly, I do give it to Cody Gibson. But if I want to take the safe route, I think fight goes the distance is the way to go.
Yeah. The over in that is over 2.5 minus 180. Don't mind that. Gibson hasn't been, I guess, on the contender, on Ultimate Fighter, he's finishing dudes. But yeah, Miles Johns is obviously a step up from those guys. I think what this fight really comes down to, Cody, we've seen it in a whole bunch of fights. Cody Gibson, I mean, at least against Brad Katona there, that fight primarily took place on the feet. Very, very close. A lot of people thought Cody did enough to get the win there. It was 164 to 160 in significant strikes. Miles Johns is like a 50 significant strike guy. 60 maybe on a good night. And let's face it. If Cody Gibson's got good enough wrestling to, like, even if he does get taken down, doesn't just hang out on his back, wrestling doesn't matter anymore. Like, these refs are not giving, I mean, yeah, just ask Isaac Dulgarian this past weekend. You have 4 takedowns in that round too. And 2 of 3 judges did not give him that round. And his opponent only landed like 8 significant, or Christian Rodriguez only landed like 8 significant strikes, and he landed like 4 or 5 significant strikes in that round. Were the bigger strikes from Christian Rodriguez? Yes, but wrestling
4 takedowns in 3 minutes of top control. I mean,
I think he had like 4 minutes and 11 seconds of top control, 4 takedowns, and he didn't win that round on 2 judges' scorecards in this exact same venue that we're going back to.
With the exact same judges that we're about to have again.
Give me volume all day long. If this is how we're scoring fights these days, and people are going to be like, oh, damage. Damage, in my opinion, when I'm watching on TV, is very subjective. We don't really know, unless there's like actual marks like cuts or black eyes or bruises that show up during the fight, or somebody starts limping because of leg kicks or something like that. That's when you can actually be like, okay, that's actually changed the fight. Just like strike for strike, I think a lot of that is kind of subjective for what you are reading into it in the moment of watching the fight. So wrestling doesn't matter anymore, bro. It's Cody Gibson for me as well, because if you just get takedowns, hold top position, well, if that guy gets up for 30 seconds at the end of round 2 and lands like a flurry of like 15 strikes, he wins the rounds. That's the world that we live in. That's the world we live in right now.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And just Cody Gibson, this is a true story. I offered him a fight 2022, 2 years ago. I offered him a fight against Jesse Arnett in Alberta for $3,000 and $3,000. And he accepted it. And Jesse Arnett ended up getting hurt. Fight didn't end up happening, but he accepted a 3-3. His last fight, he's back in the UFC. He arguably gets robbed in an Ultimate Fighter finale at 36 years old. And he won Fight of the Night, got a $50,000 bonus on top of a career best payday. He's going to come out here and he's going to be looking to fight. Miles John, we talked about not being on the juice. We talked about cardio issues. We talked about all that. This initially was Cody Gibson versus Davey Grant, which is a hell of a fight. Davey Grant gets hurt. Miles John owes the UFC one. I just come off a positive suspension. It was like a 9-month or 10-month suspension. He's on short notice. He's presumably not on his physical best. And he wasn't really a cardio guy to begin with. So how would the short notice affect him? Again, for dog money, you could do worse than Cody Gibson, who will at least fight for you.
I mean, I think we're on a streak of 4 straight dogs here. Pajuelo,
let's go, baby.
Holobaugh,
let's go, baby.
Erosa, Gibson. I think that kind of speaks more to the fact that I think that a lot of these fights are like 50-50 fights. And if you're going to give me plus money, I'm going to take that side more often than not. We got Steve Nguyen taking on Jarno Errens, minus 165 for Nguyen, plus 145 for Errens. Who you got?
Okay, so I'm absolutely sure that I will sound like a broken record of sorts. But yeah, again, it very much comes down to this Steve Nguyen, right? I like this guy. He's 30 years old, so he's not super young. And I've seen some fights where he just kind of goes out there, he stares at them. But for the most part, he's throwing up a ton of volume. His fight with Alon Cruz, it was his first go around in the Contender Series, and it's 2019. And that's one knock on him is he's 30. Ain't no him fight a whole lot. But the first time he's on the Contender Series, it was a war. He gets knocked out with a flying knee late in the third. He landed 92 significant strikes going into that third round, or in that third round. His fight with Theo Roland, it's a pretty boring fight, truth be told. But I mean, he lands 126 significant strikes. He's just constantly landing, constantly landing, constantly landing. Then they give him AJ Cunningham. So this is bad because AJ Cunningham has zero striking defense. Zero. Milch, nada. No ability to move his head. No ability to put his hands in a position that may protect his head. He's really just there to get Homer Simpson. Only Homer Simpson can take one hell of a punch. Cunningham can take one hell of a punch, but they're going to stop it eventually. And it's a perfect fight for Nguyen because he throws a ton of volume over a guy that's just there to get hit a ton of times. So he looked awesome there. He landed 103 significant strikes and the one knockdown in 9 minutes and 6 seconds. So volume all day long. That version of him shows up here. I think it would last. It would go quite well because I actually liked Jarno Errens when he came over to the UFC. It was like, yeah, he's on a decent little run in the European regional scene. He's Dutch style Muay Thai, heavy on the leg kicks, but he's got zero volume. And even though he's got a bit of power and he rocks guys a lot, it seems like his cardio is just not there. So he'll hurt a guy and then he'll just quite literally stare at them. He doesn't want to pounce. He doesn't want to apply any pressure. It's mostly just like he's huffing and puffing. His fight with William Gomes, he almost got a triangle choke in that fight. Outside of that, it's him just slow to the punch, getting taken down, constantly plodding forward and chasing his opponent. Yeah, he's got Dutch style Muay Thai. Yeah, he's got leg kicks. Just unable to track Gomez's movement, and he lands 20 significant strikes through 15 minutes. So it's a bad look. His fight with Suwo Choi, this one's more problematic. He rocks Suwo Choi. I mean, Choi is on skates, and he just stares at him. He lets the moment slip away. In the result, he lands 30 significant strikes over the course of 15 full minutes. And that fight, he had a full camp. And that fight, he was in good shape. And in that fight, he still gassed out and landed 30 significant strikes. Had a moment to chase this guy down and knock him out. And was just like, I'd rather just take the 5 seconds and try to catch my breath. It's a really bad look. And it's a really bad look considering he's taking on Steve Nguyen, who throws 100 significant strikes in his sleep. How are you going to match pace with him? You're not going to, so you're going to have to rock him and get his attention. But easier said than done. What about your ground game? Errens? No, he's a Dutch-style kickboxer. His ground game is serviceable. He'll throw up a triangle, sure. When was the last time you seen a triangle choke win in men's MMA? It's just a move that doesn't work anymore, right? It could work. It's a dope-ass move. It's like on the low percentage aisle. You want to be on your back, throwing up arm bars, throwing up triangle chokes. You need to scramble and get back up. Aaron's not that guy. Aaron's not going to win this as a striking battle. Aaron's is not going to win this as a grappling match. Aaron's is not going to win this as a fitness contest. And so, yeah, just like Steve Nguyen seems like a very, very clear forward, obvious pick. How is he going to blow it for me this weekend? Well, we're just going to have to wait and see, Paul Shaughnessy. But on paper, he looks like he's one of the plays this week for sure.
Yeah. Our Errens has not impressed me at all, pretty much throughout his entire. I think I watched a little bit of his regional tape leading up to that Gomez fight, and it got taken down 3 times. Just doesn't have any urgency to get back up in multiple spots here. Obviously against Suwo Choi at the end of round 3, same kind of thing. It's just kind of accepts defeat. Didn't really fight to get back into the just never really goes balls to the wall trying to this is my shot. Usually someone coming in off of Contender Series not too excited for a minus next to their name, but pretty hard for me to back Jarno Errens from what I've seen in the UFC so far from him. At least Steve with the stuff that's on his record here, he's putting up over 100 significant strikes. He has some pretty serious volume. Been on Contender Series obviously 3 times. Did get flying knee knocked out against Alan Cruz, which not the greatest look by any stretch of the imagination, but there is a consistency of like 100 significant strikes. Jarno in the UFC, I mean, I guess a lot of the time he's spending time off of his back in these fights, but yeah, he's nowhere near that type of volume. So volume reigns supreme for me as well here again. We got Dariya Zhelenyakova taking on Montserrat Rendon. Minus 210 for Zhelenyakova, plus 180 for Rendon. Rendon we've seen in the octagon. She had a split decision win last time out against Tamiris Vidal. It was like razor close kind of decision as it went to the final bell. She was a big favorite there. Was able to get a few takedowns. Watched some fights from Dariya. I do like her stand-up ability. She's got like a quick 1-2. She took on your girl Melissa Dixon, also known as Melissa Mullins something or other. No nonsense. What's her nickname? That's your baby, Cody.
Yeah.
Melissa Tanya Mullins. She was Melissa Dixon, but now no mess Mullins. And frankly, she was putting it on your girl. Is it Dixon or Mullins? Like, was it? Because it's Dixon on like the UFC stuff right now, but then you go on Tapology and it's Mullins.
Yeah, it was Mullins. I don't know if she has maybe just two names, perhaps.
All right, we'll go with Mullins.
She may have gotten married. We've seen that happen.
We've seen people get married and take other people's names sometimes. But yeah, even on like I'm on her Instagram right now, and like she's got a fight against Nora Cornell coming up, and it's Cornell versus Dixon, like the official UFC poster. So whatever. You know who I'm talking about.
It's obviously Melissa No Mess Mullins, right? No Mess Mullins. Melissa No Mess Mullins. That's a good name.
It rolls
Melissa No Mess Tanya. It's like, that's so cut. No. She's 6-0. She's a badass. Badass needs a good name. That's a good name, No Mess Mullins. So, yeah, I know what you're saying. Mullins is one to take a beating and then come back from adversity. The only reason we know that is because of fights like Dariya, where Dariya beat the crap out of her and Mullins was able to survive. But how many girls are going to do that?
Yeah. So, like, she was doing really, really well there, like, for the first 4 minutes. And then she got taken down. And she gave up mount pretty easily. It was a bit of a weird stoppage at the end of round 1. I will say that. Maybe a little bit quick. Maybe if it wasn't 2 women in there. Not saying it was a sexist stoppage, but like potentially a little.
Sounds like you are, Paul.
When you saw Dariya get up, her eye was absolutely like torn up. So it was like it was tough for me to like be like, that's a bad stoppage. But I've seen it'll extend it a little bit longer. I do see a lot of like tools and skills here that I would like to back. Minus 210 does not get me all that excited. And a lot of her fights, like there's Marie Loiseau, who she knocked out in 1 minute and 27 seconds. Like it was a 43-year-old pioneer of French MMA that you're kind of like, this looks bad. But yeah, she's got the skills, technique, power. I watched the whole Joshua fight as well, and you know how Joshua does it. Mostly pulling guard, flopping to her back, eating shots on the feet because she's always been certified tough. I guess Montserrat did get those takedowns, but I don't know if she's got like the killer instinct that Dixon does. Because on the feet, I do think that Zhelenyakova has skills, but I kind of think I missed the mark. I'll pick her, but I feel like I missed the mark. The steam has been kind of coming in on it, and at minus 210, like it was minus 155, 3 days ago. I feel like I kind of missed the mark if I was actually going to make a Dariya play. But Dariya will be the pick for me. I do like the skills on the feet that I see. A bit of red flags on the ground, but from a grappling jiu-jitsu standpoint or like ground and pound, I didn't really see it from Rendon against Vidal. That would get me too worried. But yeah, minus 210. It's definitely a pass, but it's a favorite or pass for me. What about you?
Yeah, well, it comes down to the judges, really, because it's going to be a fight that very likely goes all 15 minutes. If you look at Montserrat Rendon, she's had 6 pro fights. All 6 fights have gone to decision. 3 of those fights were split decisions. So everything is fairly competitive. Everything's going to decision. I think she's a BJJ brown belt, but there's not a really deep submission threat to her game. There's no real deep threat of the power, the ground and pound. She's mostly able to neutralize you, get some takedowns, hold some positions, land somewhere in the range of 50, 60, 70 significant strikes, win a few rounds, and win a decision. That's how she gets down. The part of it that the judges maybe don't reward the takedown or don't reward the top control is why she's getting split decisions. Tamiris Vidal got taken down 3 times. She largely did get controlled in that fight, but when she was standing, she was landing the bigger shots, landed less of them, but that still convinced one judge to give it to Miroslav. Brittany Cloudy's a striker. Brittany Cloudy outstruck her, got taken down, but was winning some striking exchanges. One of the judges gave it to Brittany Cloudy. Her fight with Christina Pettigrew, much of the exact same. So against someone like Dariya, who can most definitely strike, has some legitimate boxing, some decent hands, good combinations, solid power for the division, she's going to be getting boxed up. But it's grappler versus striker. And grappler is durable enough. All of her fights go to decision. Her cardio's not terrible. She's shown that she can get takedowns in the UFC. Why couldn't she lean on Dariya? Why couldn't she tire Dariya? Why couldn't she cause her to make a mistake? And like you said with Dariya versus Mullins, yeah, she's looking good. But literally the one moment where the tide changes, that's it. It's over. Like as soon as Mullins gets on top, it's like, oh no. And weird stoppage. And did they mean to stop it? And Dariya says she's still good to go, but her face is hella busted up. She hasn't really got much of a ground game. This is the type of girl that we've seen over the last 10 years get signed to Bellator, and they feed her 2 real bad fights, 3 real bad fights. They look real good, and then they're a minus 800 over somebody, and they lose. They get exposed. So I'm not fully sold on her, but this is Pat Mayo all day long. He takes the dog. This is obvious dog or pass value side towards Rendon. Striker versus grappler. Obviously, you want the grappler, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I feel like Dariya is the better fighter. I just don't like the line. The line's what's scaring me off of it more than anything else, but she's got good size for the division. I think she learned from the Mullins fight. You saw in her very next fight for Aries, physically strong, takedown defense, work in progress, but again, getting better, trending towards getting better, and she's got a significant striking advantage over her opponent, Rendon. If the judges are looking for takedowns and a little bit of control time, maybe Rendon. If they're looking for damage and volume and who's landing the more impactful blows, then yeah, I think they're going to get it right and give it to Dariya. It's just this card is a double-edged sword. The entire card is a lot of 50-50, inconsistent. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad fighters, and a lot of these fights are going to rely on the judges getting it right, because I do actually see the overs hitting in a bunch of these spots. The judges got to get it right, and just how could you have any faith in Las Vegas, of all places, that they're going to get it right? So I've got enough underdogs that I don't need to squeeze one just for the hell of it. So I am going to take Dariya, but I can fully admit this price tag just doesn't seem very fitting.
Yeah, I think I think you missed the boat on Dariya at this point. From a value perspective. But I will say, just before we move on to the next fight, that in the Joshua fight, she did actually kind of go down into that guard, and she had a decent account for herself. So she didn't look completely out of place. Like if you look at the no mess Mullins fight, she looks like a complete fish out of water. But if you go and watch the Joshua fights, she was getting into half guard, landing some half decent ground and pound from those positions. Most of the time she stayed out of that position because she's like, I can just fight at range and absolutely just dominate this fight and put myself in no risk. But she showed that she's not a complete fish out of water down there. It's kind of more to the fact that maybe she just killed her cardio, really going for the kill, because she was landing so many combinations, 3, 4, 5 punch combinations. It was pretty impressive work for the first 3.5 minutes from her. So yeah, I mean, plus 210, it's scaring me off of a play there. Her by decision would be my official pick, but I don't think I'm gonna bet it. There's I've got 5 underdogs circled on this thing already, so no point in forcing action for me on this one, especially when we got this next fight coming up, which certified banger, low-key banger. We got Andre Lima taking on Igor da Silva, both guys coming off Contender Series wins from this most recent season. Andre Silva, minus 180 favorite. Igor da Silva can be a half for plus 155. Andre Lima is a 2-time Brazilian kickboxing champion. And then Igor da Silva is one of the youngest kids to get a contract off of the UFC. He's only 20 years old. But the kid looks, certified tough. I liked a lot of what I saw from him. Andre De Lima is obviously older, has that kickboxing background, showed that he's super, super strong. There's a bit of concern that I think Igor used to put a little bit of time in at strawweight in Brazil for jungle fights. I believe he was like the strawweight champion for jungle fights, which I don't know if that's one. They said that on the broadcast, but on Tapology is still listed at 125 in that fight, so I'm not entirely sure the entire situation there. The Igor fight on Contender Series was so, like, round one, if he fights that type of style, well, he's going to get chewed up here. His opponent, does really good work kicking to the body, using those kickboxing long-range weapons. He's going to get himself in trouble if he fights round one. Round two, it's like he went into his corner and they're like, don't do that. Be crazy. And he just went, like, shot out of a cannon and went for the kill. And absolutely body bagged his opponent in like a minute and a half into the second round. With these young kids, obviously there's going to be lots of learning lessons and stuff along the way. But I don't know, the good thing about backing somebody who's an underdog plus 155 and is only 20 years old, it's like, at least that chin is not damaged yet. Maybe it will be in this fight. Maybe it will be in the fights down the line. But it's like, if he makes this ugly and charges into the pocket, doesn't fight at like kicking range, I think he's another live dog here. He's 20 years old. Obviously, it's going to be it's obviously a little bit risky at the best of times, but yeah, I mean, it's already a familiar spot for both of these guys. It's not like they're going in front of some sort of big crowd. I like the dog here. Igor da Silva, sign me up. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to actually go ahead and piggyback on pretty much all the same sentiments. It's just, to me, it's closer to a 50-50 fight. Now, I'm not going to lie. One guy's 25, one guy's 20. That's a big advantage, man. One guy's still basically a kid. The other one's starting to get into manhood. And yeah, I mean, if it is striker versus striker, you would favor the kickboxing champion who's 5 years older and a little more mature and, maybe a little more well-rounded if you thought that. But I think I like Severino or Da Silva, whatever you want to call him. But I like the kid, man. 20 years old. Yeah, very young, but he's at a shoot to box, man. These guys don't play around. And I'm sure he's been training at a very high level with very good training partners, good sparring partners, and kind of getting comfortable. One thing about shoot to box guys is they're reckless in there. Severino's not. He's like a thinking man. He almost reminds me of, your classic second generation fighter where his dad probably fought, or he grew up as a kid in the gym and saw these guys going banging it out, balls to the walls, realized don't got to do that, right? Fights a little bit smarter, mixes in wrestling as well. So I think he's a pretty legitimate prospect. When I look at both of their fights in the Contender Series, I mean, we'll look at the most recent version of himself in the Apex, in this setting, big stage in front of Dana White. How do they perform? When I look at Severino, that fight with Jonathan Da Silva, like you said, it's like, man, sometimes he's a tiny tornado, and sometimes he's a little bit reluctant and he waits a little bit, but he lands 75 significant strikes through 7.5 minutes of that fight. 2 knockdowns, 5 takedowns, including 2.5 minutes of top control. So to me, that is the big difference in this fight, is that if he wants to strike, if he wants to throw caution to the wind, he's landing at a 9.85 strikes per minute ratio. One fight on the Contender Series, don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, yeah, he's a flyweight who can land over 100 significant strikes, can absolutely throw down, but mixes in the 5 takedowns. 2 knockdowns nice as well because he's a flyweight. A little power in the weight class definitely doesn't hurt, but the 5 takedowns as well. I think he's a little more mobile and mixing up his martial arts together. When we look at Lima, he's a little more stationary. He did get 1 takedown over Rickson Zenadim on the Contender Series, but for the most part, he's picking and choosing his shots. He's a little more pretty. He's a little more polished. But I don't know that in an absolute flyweight scrap, because that's what flyweight fights are. They're scraps. They're always competitive. Both guys are landing strikes. Both guys are landing some wrestling. Yeah, I think Severino's got the better wrestling. I think he racks up a few more takedowns. I think he racks up a few more strikes. And I think he probably edges out this fight in a close competitive, maybe even a split, but a close competitive decision. Severino wins. It's definitely dog or pass. And you see the plus money on him. It makes all the sense in the world that, again, this is a card that we are now expecting 4, 5, maybe 6 underdogs to come through. So it's definitely a dog heavy card, but it's these fights that we know they're going to be close and competitive. and we need the judges to side on our side. But we're taking that plus money because they're closer to line 50-50 fights. They're going to be close. They're going to be action-packed. This is another fight, could very well see it going 15 minutes. Not because either guy's not going to be trying, not because either guy's not going to take an absolute beating in there, but it's a flyweight fight. They probably both take the shots, and at the end of it, walk out concussed, but, still conscious. So another dog to add to the list. I will go Severino.
All right. And we got Mick Parkin taking on Muhammad Usman, minus 145 for Parkin, plus 125 for Usman, who you got.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody knows me, I'm not a Muhammad Usman guy at all. Now, just like other prospects who we would love to fade, it's just about like the timing on when are you actually going to fade this man. Usman's 34, which, seems old for a guy that's just got 2 fights in the UFC, but it's not, because he's a heavyweight. And to be honest, he could still kind of be in those not infant stages of his career, but at 34, he still got lots to give if he was going to be getting better and making improvements. And it's not to take away from him saying he's not getting better. It's that not quick enough. And he is going to get flat out exposed. It's just a matter of who's it going to be. So if you look at his career, he's Kamaru's brother, sure, but that's where it ends. There's no real similarities. He comes from a same wrestling background, but he's not looking to offensively wrestle in his fights. He doesn't have the cardio of Kamaru, so he's not pushing a pace. He's not weaponizing his wrestling to tire out opponents. His striking, he's a heavyweight, so he's not throwing volume. He's picking and choosing 1 or 2 at a time. And for a heavyweight, he didn't got a whole lot of power, man. Went the distance with a 6-6 Frank Tate, lost to Dante Mays. This Terrence Hodges, he's 2-6. He went to decision with him. He got on to the Ultimate Fighter. Sorry, he lost to Brandon Sales, who was 42 years old at the time. Doesn't matter. Gets in the Ultimate Fighter in Mitchell Stipe by decision. Eduardo Perez, who's god-awful, he wins on a split decision. Knocks out Zach Pauga. Zach Pauga's a light heavyweight. Zach Pauga apparently has no chin anymore. And yeah, he does knock him out. But subsequently, Junior Tafa and Jake Collier, 2 more decisions, which would put him at 4 decisions in his last 5 fights. He's not a power puncher. So what does this heavyweight in particular do? If you're a heavyweight that can wrestle, you're going to go places. He's not using his wrestling. If you're a heavyweight that's got like deep cardio, they call him the motor, you could put a pace on guys, you could be serviceable. He doesn't seem to have the deep cardio. He doesn't have the volume punching. He doesn't have the power. He's just quite simply not good. And he's fought a lot of guys that are not good. And 3-fight winning streak, undefeated in the UFC. But again, it just comes down to like, well, who exactly is he fighting? And once again, it's just the absolute bare minimum. He beat Zach Pauga on the finals of the Ultimate Fighter. Keep in mind, he lost the first round. He gets out-hustled by a small light heavyweight. He gets outworked. Even at the time of knockout, he was getting outstruck 32-12 by Zach Pauga when he cold cocked him. It's not a good win. It's a win. I can't take that away from him. But it's not a quality win. It represents you kind of got lucky in there. His next fighting is Junior Tafa. Junior Tafa can't wrestle, okay? He's a longtime kickboxer who has 0 wrestling. Usman managed to take him down twice over the course of 15 minutes. He had 12 minutes and 3 seconds of top control. 12 minutes of a 15-minute fight, Paul. Was Usman on top of him, and he landed 7 significant strikes while being on top of the guy for 12 minutes. 7 significant strikes. And then his fight with Jake Collier, that was a career high for him. He threw down. He got 1 takedown. Not great against a guy like Jake Collier, but all the same, he threw down. But he did get outstruck. He got outstruck 87-85. It's a greasy fight. It's 1-1 in the third. Just a god-awful third round. But Usman did win it. I'll give him that. Against a Jake Collier who's just no longer with the promotion and not good. And, Usman is there to get exposed, and he's there for just somebody to hammer a line against him, and he's going to lose. And now we got Mick Parkin. So I was hoping to get Usman as a favorite over somebody like, I don't know, just some unheralded heavyweight that people didn't like. I would take that guy over Usman at plus money. 100% I would. I was hoping to get something like that. Instead, to give you Mick Parkin, who's 2-0 in the UFC, training partner of Tom Aspinall. And for that reason, Usman is not the favorite. He is the slight underdog. But it's not so bad that I would waive the opportunity to fade him. So I'm going to take it. And then for Mick Parkin, again, he's mobile for a heavyweight. He moves quite well. 265 pounds, pretty big guy. It's the tail. And Sound like a broken record. It's the tale of two versions of Mick Parkin. The version of him on the Contender Series, it didn't look great. Like, very short on volume, gets 2 takedowns, get taken down twice, lots of scrambles, eventually gets a rear naked choke. The guy that fought Jamal Pogues, he looked solid. He had cardio for 15 minutes. He landed 95 significant strikes, superior boxing, good footwork, and takedown defense was cast iron. This is a Mick Parkin that's going to win fights at heavyweight. And then he beats Caio Machado, which is the worst fight, man. The worst. He got outstruck in that fight 76-39, but he got 3 takedowns and he held on to him. And it was just it was a bad fight, not a very good fight. So which version of Mick Parkin's going to show up? The guy that's got superior boxing and footwork, who can move around the perimeter of the cage, who can land 95 significant strikes, or the guy that's getting outstruck by Caio Machado and clinging on to holding him down and gassing out? You know what I mean? Like, it's not always the same guy that shows up. It's like, how does he feel on that day? That we just don't know. But if you told me Mick Parkin blew both of his ACLs out and had the flu, I would probably still pick him over Usman. I do not rate Muhammad Usman. Nothing to do with his personality. I do not like his style. Just don't. So Mick Parkin is going to find a way to just outwork him, dude. You can't be lying on a guy for 12 minutes and landing 7 significant strikes and winning all the time. Because as we've talked about numerous times through this podcast, Paul, they want to see you fight. And Usman is just not going to do that. Just not going to do that. So I got Parkin. I'm trying to think, is it worth trying to go like a Parkin by decision or an over? What's the over on this fight?
Probably.
Nah, it's not even all that good.
No, it's not that good. They actually already have over 2.5 rounds -160. Like the books
That's
are.
what I'm seeing too.
The books have earmarked. Yeah, they've marked.
Books aren't stupid.
They've earmarked Mick Parkin as a decision guy. That's basically what.
Well, and Usman is 100% a decision guy. So the fact is, whoever wins this fight is likely winning it by decision. Parkin's never been knocked out, so you got to give him credit on that. And Usman has been choked out, and he's lost 1 decision. And then you watch that Brendan Sales fight where he gets choked out. It's for no other reason than when he gasses. He's your typical wave the white flag. I'm out of here. I'm not going to persevere. I shouldn't say that. In that fight, it was. Okay. I will give, again, credit where it's due. The Jake Collier fight, he had an opportunity to quit and he fought through it. And I would like to think that that's him getting better, getting more experience, having Kamaru, in your ear and having him as a training partner. And I think he's at Fortis MMA, one of the best camps in the world. Maybe I'm discrediting Usman too much. Maybe he is getting better. That was a sign of maturity in his last fight against Jake Collier. But Jake Collier, a middleweight dog, so you're going to be in trouble against a 265-pound Mick Parkin, right? So that's how I reconvince myself. Fade Usman's ass, which is what I'm going to do. So I'll go with Parkin.
Yeah, this one opened up at like -190, and money has been coming in on Usman.
190 for a middling heavyweight fight. Now I can see why people would say dog or pass there.
Yeah, I guess so. I backed Caio Machado against Mick Parkin, and yeah, he's like +300 or something. You know me.
Awful fight.
Like long dogs in fights that I think are way closer. I take the shot there. And yeah, it was definitely a lot closer. And maybe Caio Machado's not that bad. Because, like, he was a massive underdog against Sklefarsky or whatever, who turned out to be an absolute Farsky. And he put up, like, 117 significant strikes versus, like, 17. Like, absolutely dog-walked him for the entirety of that fight. He seems like a doesn't have great wrestling, but does have volume and has, like, decent mobility for being a fat guy. Which, at the lower end of heavyweight, if you can fight 15 minutes, throw 100 significant strikes, doesn't make you the worst guy in the division. So maybe that was just kind of like a strange fight for Mick Parkin, which he still came away with the win. I think the time that he puts in there with Tom Aspinall, one of his main training partners, on a week-to-week basis, can't hurt. I don't think that this is like the Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou used to train with who was the worst guy in the heavyweight division history?
Who used to train with? Oh yeah, Bodo,
Alan Bodo. I don't think this is a Bodo situation whatsoever. I was kind of surprised a little bit, I suppose, but I guess heavyweights be heavyweights by the line movement here. Yeah, Parkin is the pick for me as well. Are there any turbo mega locks on the old Bellator card this weekend, or I guess, if you're watching on Saturday or even Friday, you missed the boat. But like, who are we spicing up parlays with? You don't have to break down all of these fights, Cody. I just, for my degenerate purposes,
we won't break them all down
before
but,
these
no, you're
lines
right.
move. I want to get a little something. I got my pen out. I'm writing down names for some greasy parlays.
Yeah, it's good. Looks like it's going to be one of those weekends. So again, with the UFC cards, they're very tough to get like more than 2, 3, 4. If you could get 5 in a row, that'd be tough, right? But we have been hitting our top lines. We have been hitting our top tickets. The key is if you can hit a top ticket from 4 different organizations on one parlay, that'd be an 8er. You just need multiple fights to be having on the weekend. So yeah, 100%. We got to zone in on who our 2 or 3 good Bellator picks are. They got a BKFC card this weekend. There's a Fury FC on the Sunday. There's an LFA. There's an Octagon. There is, I would not touch that tough enough card unless you're a real degenerate. But for the record, Kenley St. Louis, pretty decent odds there. A little trick on my sleeve. There's a unified MMA card you can bet on Friday, but I can't really drop any hot tips there because I'm hoping to hammer it myself. And it's soft lines right now. You can tell when it's a soft line because it won't let you parlay everything together, or it's like really low limits on stuff like that.
Bobby Moffitt opened up at plus 160 and moved to minus 300. That was the first move.
I know. I can't say I haven't hit a couple of the soft openers like Zach Powell and Jet Grande, but they're gonna get too big. And what's gonna end up happening is because any one of the guys on that card appear on a parlay, I'm gonna get capped on $100 for the parlay, which is not so bad. It's just I got to make the parlay like a 10-fight parlay to make it worth my time, right? So you can utilize them in certain spots, but at like a UFC parlay, if you just put 2 UFC guys, they'll let you bet a ton. This regional show MMA stuff, they won't let you bet a ton, so you got to pick and choose certain guys and just add them to a series of $100 parlay. Anyways, all that's boring, useless stuff. That's mostly just me with a ton of parlay tickets. I wouldn't advise anybody else do it. What I'm getting at, though, is there's a ton of stuff this weekend. Bellator, I wish we could do Bellator shows and do previews and do all that jazz. What I'm looking at, just on first glance, obviously Corey Anderson because his wrestling and his 5-round capabilities and pushing the pace, like he should win, but minus 500 is a bad price tag. Jeremy Kennedy at minus 125, there's a ton of value there. He's way bigger than Patricio. He's younger. He fights a very kryptonic game plan for strikers. He's literally just looking to glue onto you, take you to the ground, take your back. People can say it's boring. It's effective. It wins fights. Jeremy Kennedy's a big boy for the weight class. Tons of value on Aaron Jeffrey, too. Plus 115 against Fabian Edwards, Leon's untalented brother. Did I not tell you about untalented Muhammad Usman? Well, untalented Fabian Edwards is not too far off. You get dog money on Aaron Jeffrey. I don't know, man. James Gallagher plus 100. There's tons of value there, too. And then you're getting into these greasy-ass favorites. I bet this Nate Kelly guy a couple days ago, but he's swollen up to a minus 1,000, and the other Nate Kelly is now a minus 500. So Alfie Davis, I was fading him, but his opponent got hurt, so now he's a big favorite. Probably have to look at that one again. Again, the Bellator card is more like filler, it's you can get a couple big favorites that look the part, whereas the UFC card, who's the biggest favorite on the card, and do they look the part? Do you actually, and are you that confident in her? Like,
No.
Yeah, I think she wins. We're picking her, but are you that confident in her? Yeah. So yeah, the Bellator card is going to be nice for that. And again, if I can just zone in on a couple LFA guys, just stuff from the other action, parlay it together, it'd be a good combat sports weekend. Fortunately, this show is for UFC Vegas 89, so it's all about UFC Vegas 89 picks. And for that reason, I got to crush those picks. Hit myself a wild-ass PRP because that's one I'd even pat myself on the back for because it would be so greasy and rely on good bounces, which is life, I suppose.
Such is life. Well, Grant Neal. Grant Neal against Luke Traynor. I like him.
Yeah, well, Grant Neal, again, one of these guys that should be my boy. The guy, like, he's got it all. He can do it all. And I want to say he's getting way better. Like, his used to be super, like, stiff and robotic in there. Comes from a wrestling background. Obviously an athletic type guy. But one and done with the strikes. One at a time. And his shots shoots from too far out. No chain wrestling, no sticking to it, but he's turned the corner, man. He dropped that split decision to Polizzi where he gassed. Since then, he beat Christian Edwards, Karl Albrechtsen, fellow wrestler, on a greasy split. Romero Cotton, 3-time state champion. solid wrestler, again, unanimous decision. He's relying on his wrestling a lot more, and being that he trains at altitude, he's able to just rely on it. Luke Trainer is just way too big, man. He's 6'6" for the weight class. He's big. He's tall. He's a problem if he hits you because he's got a ton of power. He's got a decent back take and a decent rear naked choke, but you can lean on him. You can wrestle with him. You can grind him. You'll beat him. And I think Grant Neal should do that. It's, I don't know. It just comes down to a trust thing. There's certain guys I won't bat an eye at. I will max bet the button, and I feel good about it because I know at the very least, this guy is going to go for his all. He's going to fight to the quality that I'm expecting out of him. There's certain guys like Grant Neal. A lot of these split decision fights are, he could be doing way more. A lot of these fights, he'll win the first round and he'll drop the second. He needs to rally in the third. Like, he's leaving them a little closer than need be. But I mean, honestly, dude, I could do an hour preview with Bellator right now. I love fights. I love Bellator. Unfortunately, just the world only has so many hours in a day and can't make it happen. But exciting news, maybe something to look forward to in the future. Fight Network just acquired Bellator's rights and PFL's rights for broadcasting purposes in Canada. So if you want to watch Bellator from now on in Canada, you're going to have to get Fight Network, which I don't know why I made that face. Get Fight Network. People support. But it's going to be the home for Bellator live events. They got the entire Bellator video library, all the former Michael Chandler fights, basically everything that Bellator's ever done, shoulder programming like Road 2s and, after the fight type stuff. And then for PFL, I don't think it's live programming, but again, it's their video library as well. So I'm trying to negotiate a deal perhaps where maybe we do Bellator previews on live event type stuff, but they would have to shell out some cha-ching for me and my man Paul Shaughnessy just to make it worth our while. Because like anything in life, you just, if you like to do something, you do it. That's cool. And we like doing this. But, if you're doing something and you're putting time and effort into it, you can't just be doing it for free for the hell of it. So if they want Bellator previews, PFL type stuff, I'm game. I love fights. But yeah, it would have to be again, worth your while for the amount of time and effort that you're putting into this type stuff. But that's all big picture plan stuff because it's a 3-year contract. So we'll have some time to work that stuff into things. In the meantime, hopefully these plays were good. I'll tweet out some stuff, perhaps some, I'll definitely tweet out some Bellator picks, maybe some other greasy organizations, maybe some cross-promotional parlays. But, yeah, tons of value out there, but we're going to need the bounces, and we're going to need these stupid judges to get it right. Saul D'Amato, what the hell, Saul D'Amato? But I also can't fault anybody else but myself because I'm clicking the button at the end of the day. So, goddamn Saul D'Amato.
It takes time for all these other types of previews. It takes time, and time is money. Well, I will say quickly. So Luke Trainer, kind of looked like a busted prospect. And then his last 2 fights, he won by rear naked choke. I was just looking at Grant Neal's Instagram to make sure everything was on point. And that guy doesn't the guy has no neck. Guy has no neck and a wrestling background.
Yeah. He's
maybe
built like a bowling ball.
Maybe he could lose on volume to the longer type of, longer striker, I suppose. But I wouldn't be too worried about him, giving up his absence of a neck. Without further ado, Cody, before we get out of here, hit him with the PRP.
Hit him with the PRP. We're going to go with Rose Namajunas, Karl Williams, Edmen Shahbazyan, Cameron Saaiman is dog number 1, Billy Q, Luis Penuejo, dog number 2, Kurt Holobaugh, dog number 3, Julian Erosa, dog number 4, Cody Gibson, dog number 5, Steve Nguyen, Dariya, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. Igor Severino, also known as Igor da Silva, who is dog number 6, and then Mick Parkin. So it's a 13-fight card, 6 underdogs. I really would not be shocked. It does look like a dog-heavy card this week. A lot of even-type matchups. But yeah, it's just all about avoiding the pie shitter. And in this instance, there's no real pie shitter. There's no one that's supposed to win outright, other than, in my opinion, Steve Nguyen, and very likely dumb. I was going to call him dummy, but that was rude. Karl Williams. Karl Williams fights the right game plan.
Yeah.
He just wins all day. It's just do it, man. Do it for the goddamn culture. And then Stephen Nguyen, again, minus 164. Back up the Brinks truck. But I'm obviously not seeing something. So I'll just reel it back, do a little more tape study, feel good about it, and then we'll hit up some parlays come Saturday.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. That is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Megan and Cody Saptic, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Oh, oh, oh. Oh.